Hello, and welcome to my hardware final for ITD 1213, taught by Dr. Fillmore Gwynn. This presentation will be going over the parts and the assembly process of a tablet that we were supposed to put together and make turn on. First, I will be going over the parts that were included in the box. So first we have the back case. This keeps, all the stuff from falling out, not letting any dust get in the inside. Next we have the battery. This gives power to the tablet and, I assume it's lithium ion, rechargeable. Let's see, charging cable. This is what you plug into the outlet and it gives power to the battery, let's use the tablet. Right here is a USB to micro USB cable. I called it a media cable because I'm assuming it's just used for transferring files from tablet to computer, because to charge it, it has a separate cable and port dedicated for that. Now right here's the motherboard. This is where all the stuff plugs into to make the tablet work. Right here's the thermal pad. You put it over the processor on the motherboard and it disperses heat. Right here we have dust caps. You put these between the speakers and the back case to make sure no dust gets inside, especially on the speakers. Right here are some screws that are used to screw down the motherboard and other boards, and just other things like little plastic things that hold the display on. They're really small, even though the picture makes them look a little big. This top one right here, those two were actually fused together in the kit I got, but I didn't need to use them. So right here's the speakers. You solder these to the motherboard and it lets it output sound. They have magnetic backs. Right here we have the camera glass. This goes between the decorative piece and the back cover to help protect the camera lens, the outer camera lens. And right here we have the decorative camera piece. You put this over the glass to keep it from coming out, and it just makes the camera kind of pop out on the white display. Looks nice. Right here we have the camera itself. So right here to the left we have the inner facing camera, like selfie mode. And right here we have the outer facing camera. And right here is where you plug it into the motherboard. Right here we have the antenna. You solder this to the motherboard and it gives your tablet wireless capabilities like Wi-Fi or cellular data. Here's the volume and power buttons. You pop them out of this little plastic board. The short and larger buttons, the three on the top and the one down here, are the power buttons. And then the two conjoined thinner ones are the volume control buttons. Right here, it's like a fluffy square you put on the back of the camera. I don't know what it's actually used for, but I'm just assuming maybe it absorbs shock if you drop it or something, keeps it into place. Right here, this big one in the middle, you pop it over the camera on the motherboard and it keeps it in place. These three hold the display down into the front cover, and this one holds the display and the motherboard down. Right here we have the wires that you solder to the motherboard to the volume control board. We were told not to use these, but I included it in the presentation because it was in the kit and I just wanted to include it. But I did not use it, did not solder it. Right here we have the TF card board. I think the presentation also said to solder this to the motherboard, but I didn't. This is used for putting expansion cards in, for storage and stuff like that. Right here is the volume button control board. This is what the buttons press into to actually make them do something, instead of them just being like nothing. press them in, they'll fall out if the board's not in there. Here's the display. The left side with the black center it goes on the outside and it actually displays the output to the user. And the shiny gray metallic side is what plugs into the motherboard through the ribbon cable. And right here we have the touchscreen display cover. This also plugs into the motherboard. You know, protects the display, lets you touch it and all that. And next, I will be going over the assembly process. So first, I put the power button into place, just kind of popped it in there. Next, I put the volume buttons in place. They look a little loose in the middle right here, but I pushed them back in later, so they're all snug and they click. Here's the thermal pad. I placed it on the motherboard. Helps disperse heat. Right here, I put the motherboard into the display cover. Then I plugged the display cover into the motherboard through the larger ribbon cable at the top. Then here, I put the display under the motherboard and plugged it into the motherboard through the bottom ribbon cable right here. Right here, I screwed in the volume control board through two little screws right here. And then next, I put in the display and motherboard holder. And right here is where you would put those volume control wires to solder it from board to board. But we were told not to do that, so I left that out. Right here, I screwed in the motherboard to let the power button be able to actually click right here. And then next, I screwed in 3 more to, keep the motherboard down, one on the left, center, and right. This one looks stripped, this one kinda, but they are not stripped, it's just the paint chipped off. Right here, I screwed in the display holders at the bottom, opposite end of the motherboard. Right here, I screwed in the TF cardboard, right next to the display cover ribbon cable. Screw at the top, screw at the bottom. I think you're supposed to solder it there according to the PowerPoint, but Dr. Phil asked us not to, so I didn't. Right here's the camera. The bottom part is the inner facing camera. And I put that little fluffy square on top of it. And then right here is the outer facing camera that I snapped in with the plastic part and plugged it into the motherboard. Right here, I soldered the antenna to the motherboard, and I didn't adhere it yet. I'm waiting for a later step for that. Here's my soldering. I've had prior experience to soldering, so this was pretty easy for me. Right here's the speakers. I soldered those right there on the motherboard at the very end. I didn't plug them into the back case yet. Right here's where I soldered the battery. Well, I know it turns on, so I know I did it right, so that's what it looks like. And then right here is where I took the tape and adhered it to the back of the display. Right here's where I adhered the antenna. It goes on the side of the case and the back, so you get a good Wi-Fi range, so it's not just from the back. Right here I put the dust caps into place. This keeps the dust out from the speakers. And then I melted the camera's decorative piece to the back case. And I also put the glass in between before I melted it. No solder was used, just the iron. Right here I put the speakers into place. And then here's an overview of everything. Some solder on the side here. Yeah, everything's just put into place. I'm about to close the back case. There it is, I snapped it on. You can barely see the dust caps without zooming in, and then the camera looks fine. That's what it looks like finished. So I started charging it. The screen came on, so that was good. and then I started to boot it up, and it got stuck on the screen. I waited for about 15 minutes. It wasn't really changing. That's not a dark spot on the display either. It was like this wave effect going over the letters. But yeah, it turned on. Maybe if I waited longer, it would have booted up, but at least it went to this part. Right here, I show that the screen protector's still on. I think we're supposed to leave it on, so I just want to make sure I got that in there. And then I put everything back into the box and put it over to the side with all the other finished ones. I will now be going over the difficulties in the assembly process. One difficulty I had was kind of my own fault. It was the screwdriver I was using. Um, it wasn't, it was like kind of broke, like the handle and the metal part. So I had to hold the little metal rod part of the screwdriver instead of the handle, and that made things a little difficult. Another thing was I did mine kinda early, so the PowerPoint wasn't updated yet, so I kinda had to, like, not do some steps off of memory. Um, I said it earlier, but I had prior soldering experience, so that part wasn't too hard. Other than that, everything was pretty straightforward, and it was a good learning experience. I'd put together computers before, but never a tablet or phone or anything, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching my presentation over my hardware final, and yeah, see ya.